Welcome to the Stories of Christmas podcast. My name is MyLinda Butterworth, and I will be your teller of tales during this festive season. Today we find a poor shoemaker trying to make an honest living and down to his last piece of leather, and the elves who secretly help him in The Elves and the Shoemaker, a German folktale as told by MyLinda Butterworth. Once there was a shoemaker who worked hard and was very honest. Even so, he was as poor as a church mouse and could not earn enough to support himself and his wife. At last there came a time when he had left was one piece of leather, just large enough to make one pair of shoes. The shoemaker cut the leather into pieces ready to stitch and make the shoes the next day. He left them on his workbench, intending to get up with the sun and start to work. The shoemaker was a good man, so his heart was light, despite all his troubles. He went to bed peacefully, trusting that he would be able to finish the shoes the next day and sell them. Leaving all his cares to heaven, he settled his head on his pillow and fell asleep. Bright and early the next morning, the shoemaker rose and went to his workbench. To his amazement, there on the table were 2 shoes, already finished. They were beautifully made, neat and true, and not a stitch out of place. But there was no sign of anyone in the house. The good man and his wife could not imagine how the shoes could have been made while they slept. The first customer who came in that morning was so pleased with the shoes that he bought them immediately. The price he paid was enough that the shoemaker was able to buy enough leather to make 2 more pairs of shoes. The next morning, the shoemaker cut out 2 pairs of shoes and went to bed early as before. When he got up in the morning, there were the shoes on the bench, all finished and perfectly made just as before. Once again, there was no sign that anyone had been in the house. That day, customers came in who paid the shoemaker handsomely for his goods, so he was able to buy the leather to make 4 pairs of shoes. Once again, he cut out the shoes and left the pieces on the bench. Once again, he found in the morning that all 4 pairs of shoes were made. For some time, the same thing happened, until the good man and his wife were thriving and prosperous, but they were not satisfied to have so much done for them and not know to whom they should be grateful. One evening, about Christmas time, they were sitting there near the fire and chatting together. The shoemaker said to his wife, "I would like to stay up tonight so that we might see who it is that's coming in during the night and makes those beautiful shoes we find each morning." The wife agreed, so they hid themselves behind a curtain and waited to see what would happen. Just as the clock struck 12, 2 tiny little elves came dancing into the room. They hopped upon the bench, took up the work that was cut out, and began with their tiny little fingers to stitch and sew and hammer so neatly and quickly that the shoemaker could not believe his eyes. These little elves wore nothing. They worked with tiny scissors and hammers and thread, and as they worked, they sang this song. "We stitch and clip and hammer, these shoes we'll make for you. We're happy when we do good deeds, then we're quickly out of view." No one ever worked so fast as these 2 little elves did. They worked on until the job was quite finished, and the shoes stood ready for use upon the table. Then they took hold of each other's hands, and they ran as swiftly away, leaving the room as it was before. "These little elves have made us happy and rich," said the shoemaker to his wife. What can we do to thank them and do them a good service in return?" "They were running around with nothing on and must be frozen with cold. I will make them tiny coats, pants, and a cap," said the wife. "And I will make each of them a little pair of shoes," said her husband. That very day they went about their tasks. The wife cut out 2 tiny pairs of yellow trousers and 2 teeny weeny blue coats and 2 bits of caps, bright orange, because she thought the elves would like the bright colors, and her husband made 2 little pairs of shoes with long pointed toes. They made the wee clothes as dainty as could be, with nice little stitches and pretty buttons, and by Christmas time they were finished. On Christmas Eve the shoemaker cleaned his bench, and on it, instead of leather, he laid the 2 sets of clothing and the 2 tiny pairs of shoes. Then he and his wife hid away before to see what the elves would do. Promptly at midnight they came skipping in and were about to set to work, but instead of the leather cut and ready to assembly, they found the charming little clothes and shoes. At first they were surprised, then excessively delighted. In the twinkling of an eye, they put on and smoothed down the pretty clothes, and then they began to dance and sing in a circle. "Now one boy so fine and neat, why cobble more for others' feet?" And when the sun rose, they danced out of the window over the green and out of sight. The shoemaker and his wife never saw them again, but continued to do well and had good luck for the rest of their lives. And here is where I end my tale for today. But I'll be back with more stories, many more stories. Thanks for joining me today as we explore stories from around the world. If you enjoyed the story, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe. For more stories like this one, check out the book Crazy About Christmas. Until then, enjoy everything this season has to offer you. See you soon.